Okay, hi everyone. So let's continue from where we left yesterday. So we were discussing about the spaces and dimensions of a vehicle. Spaces and dimensions of a vehicle. So we were there discussing about the simplest possible design of a vehicle. The simplest possible design of a vehicle. This is what we were discussing yesterday and we left off. Okay, I'm sorry, yesterday we have got some of the issues with our broadcasting services, the software that we were using at that time. So that's why we decided to upload all the videos so that students at least can get the clearer image of the board and whatever we are discussing, the audio should be very clear. Okay, so yesterday we were discussing the simplest possible design emerged from a point to a circle. Now if I mount all my four wheels in a circular pattern, is it possible for me to drive my vehicle straight or to this direction or to park in this direction? Is it possible for me? No. We have to mount all the four wheels in the linear direction to get these directions, the instantaneous directions while we will be moving our vehicle. Right? So this diagram does not justify our needs. This diagram or this configuration of the wheels does not justify our needs. So what should we do? The next simplest possible design emerging from a circle is the square. And when we talk about the simplest could be anything, or an object or an image or a diagram that could be drawn by anybody. Or if I go with the mathematics, or if I go with some simple geometrical principles, it could be something that everything on its periphery should be equidistant from the centroidal location. Right? Should be equidistant. See, this. Everything is equidistant. While in the case of rectangle or any other configuration, it's not symmetric. Or better, I would say it's not equidistant. In this circle, anything on the periphery is equidistant. Though in this square, the object placed here is not equidistant from the centroid. Object 1, object 2. This is centroid. 2O and 1O are not equidistant, are not equal to each other. But in the case of circle, everything that has been mounted on the periphery is equidistant to the centroidal location. We have to give some set of rules to find out what is the simplest design. Right? Or to define anything, we have to provide some set of rules. So this is a set of rules that I have decided or that I have mentioned to provide which figure is the simplest possible figure. Right? It's the simplest possible figure. I'm not just talking about anything that could be drawn by anyone, but anything that could be justified in terms of mathematics. If I have to give it an analytical approach, I should be able to provide it the right formulation. So this is what I needed at that time to define what is the simplest possible design for me. Okay, so now we got to know the simplest possible design for our vehicle is the square. It means whenever we design any vehicle, whenever we design any four-wheeler, what we want to design our vehicle as square as possible. The vehicle that we have designed should be as square as possible. You got this thing, right? Okay, let's move on with this thing. If this is a square that I have designed, here I have got my four wheels. Dimensions could be anything like X, Y, Z. Take any dimension, 10 meters, 10, 100 meters, 1000 meters, 10 kilometers, 100 kilometers, whatever the dimension that you want to take, you can take it. Now, the thing that we have to consider at this point of time is where are we going to provide the mounting points. Okay, so this is my centroidal location. At this point, I am going to have my steering input, maybe the foot pedals and everything are going to be mounted at the upfront side of my wheels or from the centroidal location. Here at this point I have got my engine, I am calling the rear wheel drive vehicle. See, these are the shafts. Here my driver is being seated. Cool. As per the mathematical formulation or the geometrical interpretation, till now everything that we have done are perfect. This is the best possible solution to design a vehicle as square as possible, because we can formulate this vehicle in terms of easy mathematical equations. Alright? Okay. I got this thing. Everything in my vehicle is going to be regulated by the point of centroid. The centroidal location will govern all the things in my vehicle. Will govern all the geometries. The motion of my vehicle is going to be regulated by the centroidal location. This is what mathematics or the geometry says. Consider for a moment you know nothing about the forces. You just know about the configurations, the dimensions, the spaces. At that time we can say that everything in my vehicle is going to be regulated by the centroidal location. The centroidal location, the complete mass, the complete dimensions of the vehicle are going to be lumped together at the centroidal location. At the centroidal location. Okay, I got this thing. Even if someone is going to design a vehicle as per the centroidal location, if someone is going to design a vehicle very square, a perfect square if I am going to design, I have got all my masses placed at different locations. Am I going to have, or is our vehicle, the vehicle that I have designed or the vehicle that we have designed together, is it going to have the best possible performance on road? When I talk about the performance, it means if my engine is 100 HP or if the torque that I have used is XYZ, I can easily find out these things, that we have used the complete power of the engine. We have used the 100% power of the engine on the road surface. Is it possible for us? No. There should be some shimmies which we haven't regulated, the vibrations for which we haven't done the calculation. How these vibrations, these shimmies, hard turns, the bends in my frame, the twist in my frame structure, the whirl in my shaft. These things, we haven't regulated any of these factors. And none of these factors do not only depend on geometry but also depends on the mass associated with the geometry. But it also depends on the mass associated or the weight associated with the geometry. I am not directly going with the mass but the weight, because the forces are going to act on it. In the dynamic condition, the forces are going to act on it. So we will better call it the weight. It should be good, like if we can work more on the terms that we use. Okay. I will give you a very fantastic, a very classic example for the same. Something that distinguishes a motorsport enthusiast or a simple engineer. Like, there is nothing that I am going to say to someone else. But yes, if you are doing something, you should be aware of the terminology of those particular domains. Okay. Now what we have seen, this complete diagram that we have made here is incomplete. Though it's complete, it's very incomplete, because the physical laws, the physics says everything in the vehicle is going to be regulated by the center of gravity location. Now at this location I have got my driver. At this location I have got my engine. Here I have got my steering, braking and everything. For a moment I can consider the component which is going to have the highest value of mass, the largest mass, the component that holds the largest weight is the driver, and then the engine. I am not taking this chassis frame structure here into account. Everything that is mounted over the chassis frame structure. And then I could say my transmission assembly, the gearbox, the shaft, the propeller shaft and everything that we have got, braking, steering, right? Or easily I could predict if at this position my engine is mounted, or at this position my driver is being seated, somehow my center of gravity will be located behind the centroidal location. If I consider that the complete mass of my driver is being situated exactly at the center, or exactly at the centroid, I could say the center of gravity position is behind the centroidal location. Or if in any of the cases the engine is being mounted up front, maybe it would be at some of this place, maybe it could be at this place, right? So now we can see this one thing. I told you earlier, yesterday we have discussed about this thing. There is a tug of war competition between the mathematicians and the physicists who are governing or deciding the dynamics of a vehicle, which we consider as the vehicle dynamics, and altogether different subject. Now this is the square where at this location I have my centroid, while at this location I have got my center of gravity. A center of gravity. Now we can say one thing, that all the irregularities that you haven't accompanied, that you haven't considered while deciding the parameters for a vehicle, everything that happened, the occur in your vehicle, which you haven't considered, is going to be a weed out thing for a vehicle, that weed out thing actually occurs because of this undesirable trail between the centroidal location and center of gravity. The centroidal location and center of gravity. This undesirable weed out disturbances in the vehicle can occur because of this centroidal location, distance between the centroidal location and center of gravity location. I told you that our vehicle is a compromise. Everything that we design is a compromise of some other elements. Now, if we are going to justify, we are going to find out the compromise between the center of gravity, it means we have to change or we have to iterate the design, the basic design of the chassis frame structure or the basic outline of our vehicle. We will discuss about this thing, what is chassis, what is frame, what is the outline of the vehicle. We will discuss about this thing. As of now, just consider this one thing. At this position, we have got the tires mounted. So distance between the tire center to tire center, this periphery, this outline, we are just discussing about this outline. Now somehow we have to change the outline of the vehicle. Somehow we have to change the outline of our vehicle. Now this is also not sufficient, because any forces or any mass that is being accompanied ahead of this region or beneath this region will change the complete dynamics of the vehicle, will change the altogether complete dynamics of the vehicle, which we will discuss as we move forward, as we proceed forward. We will discuss about these things too. Or I think this is something that you have to give your heads on to. The movement equation, the movement, we have to discuss about these things too. Okay, now we have to iterate the design. Earlier we have got this square, and now just what we want the centroidal location and center of gravity location to come in the nearest possible vicinity. We want the centroidal location and center of gravity location to come at the nearest vicinity, to come as close to each other as possible. Or what we want these two positions to be concentric to each other, But now, as we move our vehicle, the weight will shift. It means the center of gravity location will move from this direction to this direction. Or if there is any angle of twist or any flex in the chassis frame structure, during cornering or during braking or during accelerating, the centroidal location will also change. So it's very difficult to predict the exact location for the centroid or the center of gravity while designing a vehicle. So what we need to do? We need to do n number or infinite number of iterations while designing the chassis frame structure, or while designing the exact or determining the exact dimensions of a vehicle. Right? It does not only depend how stiff the frame that you have manufactured, it also depends on the engineering parameters. There is no formulation, just the geometrical interpretation, which only comes from the infinite number of iterations. The team which has done the maximum number of iterations usually wins out the race over any other team. Right? So it's all about the engineering. Now, and somehow when you will be discussing these things now, you will find the relation. I already know that whenever you design a vehicle, you do it with the iteration process of it, right? But you haven't considered these fundamentals. Maybe you were not aware of these fundamentals while while you were designing a vehicle, because these things are actually not mentioned in any of the textbook till now. So it would be very difficult for you guys to find out these things. Like, but now if you have designed a vehicle, the person who is studying these things for the very first time, who have never designed a vehicle, never manufactured a vehicle, this could be completely theoretical part for them. A complete theoretical part. They can think that this is how all these things start. But the teams, the members who are watching this video now have already manufactured a vehicle or designed a vehicle. Give your head to your past memories. When you were designing a vehicle, you were doing the exactly same thing, but you were not aware of these terms. You were exactly doing the same things while reiterating your chassis frame structure. Just find out, just check your chassis design now. If you have got your design with you in the IGS format, in any format, just check your design now and you will find there is a very healthy correlation between the centroidal location and the center of gravity location. Okay, now when we will iterate our design, what I have done from this square geometry, I have changed this square geometry, to a rectangular part. It means these masses that I have got, the engine, the steering, the driver, these locations are being shifted. If these locations are being shifted, earlier my center of gravity location, centroidal location is somewhat here, but now my centroidal location has changed to this position. But now there is also one more thing that you have to consider. If you are extending the dimension of a frame structure, maybe your location for the masses will also change. Your location for the weights, the masses, the components will also change. So your centroidal location and center of gravity location will change together. Right? So you have to iterate it in such a manner that these centroidal location and center of gravity location should come together. See, by changing these dimensions, somehow I brought my centroidal location closer to the center of gravity. Now reiterate it as many times as possible. There is nothing to go with the linear designs of a square, then what is this? A rectangle, and then a trapezoid, right? You can make any design. I told you everything starts from a very basic, very simple phenomena, from the very cell structure. You started from the cell structure, you started to iterate it, and later on, just to get all these points together, just to justify everything together, to make a very rigid frame, we will come to this thing also, a very rigid frame, or to make a frame where the centroidal location or the center of gravity location, to make a frame where these 2 point locations justify each other, you have to reiterate it, or maybe you will end up getting a trapezoidal geometry. Compound trapezoidal geometry, or I could say even more of these structures could be joined together. If I give you a classic example of this thing, you can understand it a bit. Yesterday we were discussing about GoKart. I have taken that name for so many times. I personally love GoKart, the design of the GoKart. That is something that really fascinates me. Okay. So if we talk about a GoKart, right? If you have seen the basic designs of a GoKart, if you have just googled it down, right? You will find all the international GoKarts are made up of this design. I guess I have made it a bit long. Let's make it small so that everyone can watch it. Right. So this is the basic structure of a go-kart. Right. Now if I say this is one compartment, this is one compartment, this is one compartment, this is one compartment. Now why so compound geometry? A rectangle, a trapezoid, a rectangle, then again a trapezoid. Why? And you can see one thing. This point usually, I am not saying every time, usually goes along with this part. Why aren't we having a rectangular frame? Why aren't we having a square frame? Why do we have this compound geometry of a go-kart chassis frame design? Why do we have this compound geometry in here? Now earlier when the first go-kart was built, that first go-kart was based on a ladder frame design. I recommend each one of you to please go through the type of chassis. It all started from the ladder frame. The first chassis frame that has been designed or has been justified, for which the explanation has been given, was the ladder frame, then the backbone structure, then some cross structures or the modification in the ladder frame structure started. So please go through these things like the cruciform structure if you want to go with. If you don't want to consider cruciform, just don't consider it. X frames if you want to consider X frames, consider it, otherwise just leave it. But the basic is ladder frame structure, backbone structure, space frame structures, and the monocoque structures. Please go through these things over the net. You will find the resources which will give you the proper explanation for the demerits and merits of using these structures. So the first frame that has been designed was the ladder frame structure. Or if we go with any two-dimensional figure, I am talking about the GoKart structure, it's actually the modification of a ladder frame structure. It's actually the modification of the ladder frame structure. But there was one drawback with the ladder frame structure. Ladder frame structure, though it has got some tubes in the longitudinal direction, some tubes in the lateral direction, we can add as many tubes in the lateral direction as possible. It can add up to a very high value of rigidity in a frame. The stiffness of a chassis frame structure is very high in the case of ladder frame structure. But somehow, why aren't we using the ladder frame structure in designing a go-kart? Why we have got this modified a compound structure, the bending of these turns, the bending here, these bends, these are very expensive things. If we have used a straight rod, it would be even cheaper and it would be even simpler to manufacture it. Cut the pipes, cut the tubes of same dimensions, of same lengths. It would be easier. So why have we got this compounded structure? We have got this compounded structure to have the equivalent weight density in all the regions. Yes, to have the equivalent weight density in all the regions. We will consider these things like just after 10 or 15 minutes, I guess we will be getting back into these things. What are the things that we have to consider while designing the frame or the chassis frame structure or the chassis. And I will also tell you what is the difference between chassis and the frame or the primary outline. So if we talk about this primary outline has been made so that we can justify the relationship between the centroidal location and the center of gravity location. And yes, there is one more thing that I have to tell you. This geometry that you are seeing right now of a go-kart is actually the n times of iterations done on the ladder frame structure. When one of the team thought of doing something different from the others, or when one of the team thought of getting more power, getting better performance in the vehicle, they started to reiterate it. And now there are n number of teams across the globe which are working on these iterations. Right? Later on, what they found out, this diagram, this dimension, this space frame, I am not talking about the space frame structure, I am just talking about this space and frame. This frame dimension is the best possible figure to achieve the maximum output of the chassis frame. Right? This diagram or this design is the best possible outcome indeed to get the maximum out of the chassis frame structure, to get the maximum performance out of the chassis frame structure. Nobody has thought of working on a top-down approach, but what they thought of, change this dimension, okay, this is the performance, change this dimension, this is the performance, change this dimension, this is the performance, and we all together got a very beautiful result, that is this diagram. Right? But if we go with the beauty of the vehicle dynamics, it has already said the vehicle dynamics or your vehicle is a compromise of mathematics and the physics. And if we have thought about this thing earlier, it would be very easy to design such kind of chassis frame structure. It's very easily set than to do it. Okay, now in all these reasons we have got the equivalent weight density. Now what do you mean by equivalent weight density, and what is the role of equivalent weight density in the vehicle dynamics or in the stiffness of a chassis frame? Right? One point. The other point is, how are we going to decide the wheel base, track width and the dimensions of primary outline? Okay, first you guys, it's your homework, a kind of homework. You have to go through this ladder frame structure, backbone structure, space frame structure and the monocoque chassis frame structure. And also you have to tell me, why do we have the bend in these particular regions, in these particular regions. You have already get the idea now? You have already got the idea, the weight density. Here I have got my engine mounted here. At this position I have got my driver being seated. At this position I have got my fuel tank, all the steering column. At this position I have got the foot panels. The weight density of all these regions. Divide your vehicle in as many components as possible. In as many components as possible to exactly find out the weight density of particular region. And what we want, if your vehicle is in a run, the weight density in all the regions should be equivalent, because this is going to create the internal stresses inside the chassis wheel structure. Okay.